Hi folks, I'm Dennis. Today I'm going to show you how to change the alternator on a 2003 Ford F150 with a 5.4 liter V8 engine in it. Let's get started. The process for doing this is the same whether it's a 5.4 or 4.6 liter V8. No matter what it's in, they're all set up the same way. All these modular V8s are the same. First thing you want to do is disconnect the battery. Make sure you don't get any shorts or anything. Be careful when you're disconnecting the battery not to let your wrench, if you're disconnecting the positive side, don't let your wrench touch any other metal because you'll short out, throw sparks, and you end up blowing a bunch of fuses. The bad thing about having to disconnect the battery is you'll have to reprogram your radio and all of that stuff, but it's necessary. If you got any corrosion on there, clean it up. They make some battery terminal cleaner and some protectant. You spray on there, clean it up, wipe it off, clean out the cable, and same thing. And then once you put it back on there, spray it with protectant. That'll keep it from corroding so much. The easiest way to do this is to get all this air intake, cold air intake stuff out of your way. You got to take this cowling off, and then what you do, you can get the intake nozzle unscrewed. There's a hose clamp on it, and get it out of the way. That way you can get to the alternator. The alternator is right down there, as you can see. There's a bolt right there, which you can see I've already loosened up. And then there's two on this side, one there and one there. You loosen them up, and then that top cowling comes right off. It takes a 10mm wrench or socket. They've got a captive washer on them, so you don't really have to worry about dropping anything when you take that off. Alright, so we got this cowling off. Now you can see the throttle body and the full cold air intake. So there's just a hose clamp that holds this rubber boot onto the throttle body. Loosen it up. You got a couple of steel lines that come in here. You can take them loose if you want. I don't think you need to. We'll see here in a minute. Just kind of work that off. That boot will come off the throttle body. You can leave the hose clamp on there because it's kind of got a captive channel. Maybe take it loose off the air intake, or the air filter canister, I mean. Okay, now that that's off and kind of out of the way, I think I'm going to go ahead and move the upper radiator hose. The engine's cold, so there's not going to be any water to speak or any coolant to speak of in this upper hose. They've just got these squeeze clamps on each end. You just squeeze these clamps. You know, it goes right up here. I can't do it one-handed, but yep, you squeeze it and slide it down the hose a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of crimp it back this way. Again, that's not the best thing in the world for my hose, but get it out of my way. The alternator is right there. You got a bolt here that holds an ear on the back side, and then you got one down here on the bottom and one on the other side. Before we take that off, we got to loosen the belt. We got to take the tension off the belt, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. There's the idler pulley. There's the belt tensioner, the spring part of it, where you can see the grooves on the back side of the belt right there. That's going over the tensioner pulley. There's a 1/2-inch socket hole in right behind the pulley of the belt tensioner. I don't know if you can see it or not. You take a 1/2-inch breaker bar or a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, and you get in there into that hole. I like to use a breaker bar because it's a little bit longer. Stick it in that hole right there. Doesn't really have to snap in, but it's easier if it does. Less likely to bust your knuckles. And you pull it toward the center of the engine, because that tensioner has to swing down to let the tension off the belt. And it takes a little bit to do it. So you got to have both hands, because you got to slip the belt off too. and then it'll come on up a little ways. You don't have to worry about your belt because how to route the belt, because right there and on the front cover over the radiator is a diagram that tells you one's for the 4.6 and 5.4, and then the other one is for the 4.2 liter. But that'll give you the routing for the belt, so you can figure it out if you knock the whole thing off. The bolts that hold on the alternator are 10 millimeter. There's 3 of them on most installations. Here's the alternator. You got 3 bolts. There's 2 on the bottom. They're kind of like an ear that sits like this, like the pulley's here, and you got a bolt and a bolt. One on each side of the bottom. And then there's another one up here on the top, right back here, and there's another little ear that sticks off the back of this alternator. I think that some of the installations are slightly different. I think this is a truck. This is an F150, but I think some of the car installations with the 5.4, like in the Crown Vic, has a different bracket up here, but it's all very similar. You can tell by looking at your particular installation which bolt has to come out. There won't be more than 1 or 2 up here on the top, and there's always going to be 2 down here at the bottom. But I'm going to get in here and break that loose and come off with that nut, or that bolt rather. Yep. Socket decided to stay with it. I'm not going to take any of the wires loose until I've got the alternator off, because they connect onto the back, and it's just a whole lot easier. That socket. It's just a whole lot easier to get them loose with it off. You can flip it over. Be careful when you're taking your bolts out that you don't drop it down in there. That's kind of a headache to go fishing for. Yeah, I'm going to use a 2-inch extension so I can clear the pulley. But it gives me enough room to get up in here between the fan and the alternator without getting too far in the way. Easier to just take a little short extension in your socket off of your ratchet and use it to turn them, because you can get your fingers on that extension easier than you can the bolt head. These bolt heads are small, being 10 millimeter. If you got fat fingers like me, it's not always easy to get them. So you can just take that and use that as a little helper. Now those bottom ones you see are going to be a little bit longer. The one that come out of the top, it's a little short one. And the one that come out of the bottom's like that. Alright, so now we can pull this alternator out, get it up above this. If I can keep that radiator hose out of the way. Kind of finagle it around. Try not to put your wires in too big of a bind. And now we can get to the back side of it to take care of the wiring. Alright, so where the bottom ears of that alternator were sitting, here and here, like I say, you can see just a little bit of rust, nothing major. I'm going to take a wire brush, and I'm going to scrub that off a little bit just to clean it up where that alternator makes contact. I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but you can see some crud coming off of there, just like some rust fines. It's just a kind of a light coating there. Okay, here you can see the new alternator and the old alternator. I haven't disconnected this one yet, but you can see you've got this connector on the back, which is here, and you've got this other connector. Sorry, you got this connector and this connector on the back of the old one. That's where the cables go. And then you got this one and this one on the new one. So we don't have to disconnect all of this. The only thing we've got to do is disconnect here, and then pull this plug out. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, on the back of this one, there's just a nut inside of that boot that holds this lug on. That's also a 10 millimeter, I think. Yep. So you break that loose. Most of them are nuts with a captive, with a a washer nut, so you don't have to worry about dropping the washer. Slip that right off. Push that boot back so you can connect it when you go to put the new one on there. And then this one, try my best to show this to you. This is just a plug that goes into this connector. It's plastic, so you have to be careful. Take your slotted screwdriver, put it in there, and just open it up just a touch to clear the catch on that plug. And then you can take your finger on the top and push it loose. There's just a little clip down on the bottom that goes into here, so you want to clear that. And then you've got this plug on the bottom. Once you get this, once you get these out of the way, same kind of thing. You want to be real careful because they're plastic. Pry that up just enough to clear that lip, preferably without breaking it. There we go. So see, it's got just a little like that, and all you're trying to do is open. So there's the wiring harness for that. Now we got this out of the way, we can get rid of it. One of the things to make sure of when you go to buy this alternator is your pulley. They come in a 6 groove and an 8 groove. So make sure that you've counted the grooves in your pulleys before you go buy your alternator, because what you don't want to do is buy an 8 groove and come home and find out you need a 6 groove. So double check that before you go buy it or before you order it. Then also make sure that you keep this old alternator and take it back to your parts house, because they'll charge you a core charge, and when you take it back they'll give you that money back. It's usually about 30 or 40 bucks. Putting the new one back in is just the opposite. Just take your new one, connect everything back up the way it just got disconnected, put it back in, make sure everything's tight, and then put your belt back on. Be sure to inspect your belt also before you just put it back on there. If your belt needs changing, go ahead, and now's a good time to change it out. Well, you got it loose anyway. So that small connector goes right here. Plug that in, make sure it snaps. This one goes like that. Now the clip on this one, the small one, the clip goes on the top, or on the back, facing the back rather. On this bigger plug, the clip faces the front of the alternator. Make sure it snaps in there and doesn't come off. They'll give you a nut on this hot lead. That's that red connector. It's hot, that's why it's red. That's your positive 12 volts. It goes in here like this, and make sure that you've got it coming, the lug coming out the side like this. That's why these two ears are here, so you don't have it coming out this front of the back, because if you do, your alternator's not going to fit in there right without that lug grounding out on something. Since it's a hot line or hot lead, you don't want it to ground out. The battery's disconnected, so you don't have to worry about touching anything with this lead because it's not hot at the moment. Tighten it up, make sure it's good and snug. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to crank down on it, but you do want it to be tight. Put your boot over there. That's another level of protection against grounding that lead out so it doesn't ground on something. Flip it over, put it back in the hole, and line the ears up, and you're ready to bolt it back in. You can move these throttle body cables and stuff if you want to. I just don't want to, and I can finagle this thing around without tearing anything up. What you want to do is just get your ears lined up best you can, and you got to kind of find that hole.
Once you get one of those bottom ones started, it's not so bad. Make sure before you start tightening everything up that you don't have your wires in a bind. And then on this one on this ear in the back, you got to support you got to line it up a little better and support the alternator, because that hole's got to be kind of up against the bottom of this bracket. Now, you don't want to tighten anything up until you get them all snugged, just because you want it to be lined up properly. You don't want to get that thing in a bind. Now that they're all snug and lined up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up these two bottom ones, get them tight. You don't want to put a breaker bar or anything like that on these things. Just use your ratchet. Be careful if you're using an air ratchet, because these alternator bodies are cast and they will crack, and when they crack, you're screwed. So you don't want to do that. You want them to be tight, but you don't have to stand up on it tight enough where it's not going to come loose. There's probably a torque specification on the things, I just don't know what it is, but as long as you get it reasonably tight, it'll be fine. And there you go, that's in. You have looked on the front of your engine compartment. There's a sticker that's got your vehicle emission information. It's also got your belt routing. This particular truck's got a diagram for the 4.6 and the 5.4 liter, and then another diagram for the 4.2 liter, because the routing's different. Make sure you follow the right one. And this pulley right here, in fact, on this one is the tensioner. So make sure that your belt is properly routed. Make sure that it's over all your other pulleys properly. You want to take your ratchet handle toward the center of the engine. That tensioner swings down to let tension off of it. And then once you get it off of there, get some tension off, you can get the belt up on the alternator, and then you can ease the tension back on the belt. Make sure it's seated everywhere before you call it done. Looks like we're in good shape. Make sure you've got that hose fully pushed up onto the shoulder, and then make sure that you get this hose clamp fully up onto the neck. You should be able to feel the end of the neck on the hose side of the clamp. Snug them up, reconnect the battery, crank it up and test it. Good to go. All done, everything's put back together. Now it's just time to get the tools out from under the hood and crank it up, make sure the belt runs true, and everything should be all done. So thanks for watching my video, hope it helped. See you soon.